أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So we are starting a new surah, Surah Al-Kafirun. This is 18th surah in Revelation order and 109th surah in Mus'haf order. So this is again in the early period of Revelation. So they narrate multiple potential different cases for which this might have been the Asbabun Nuzul, the initial cause of revelation. But I'll just give you the main flavor of it. So elders of the Mecca comes to messenger and says that, look, you stop delivering this message. Let's make an agreement. So you worship our gods, we worship your God. Whichever is right, both of us will benefit from that. Or 1 year you worship to our gods, 1 year we worship to your gods. So, and at the end of the day, whomever is right, at the end of the day, it's going to be like that God is going to be happy. So win-win, sort of. They say this was revealed for such an occasion, and the messenger went to them and explicitly recited the surah. And then they said, well, there's no hope. This man is not going to stop delivering his message. This is one line of narration that they mention. Another group of narration that they mention about this surah is Prophet was like people were asking, like some Sahaba was asking, what shall we recite before we sleep? And Prophet suggested this surah. So before you go to sleep, recite this surah. So these were the two type of narrations that I came across about Surah Al-Kafirun. So inshallah, we'll be going through that. So first, let's see the big picture. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Say, O you that reject faith. لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. I don't worship that which you worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. Nor do you worship that which I worship. وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. And I am not a worshipper to that which you have been wont to worship. And this is a little bit of an interesting English, but want to means you have been continuously doing this so far. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. Nor do you worship that which I worship. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينٌ. To you is your religion, and to me, my religion. So deen, there is this E at the end, this normally dini, but they said it with this kesra at the end, so like deen as it finishes, but it means to you is your religion, and to me is my religion. That is the surah. It's a short surah with only 6 verses, and it sounds very like a lot of repetitive words in there. Let's see where this will take us to. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun. Say, O you that reject faith. So it starts with qul, say. So my question, the first question I have here would be, what does this say indicate? Like the surah starts with qul. What does that mean? In two senses, I am asking this question. First, this is a command to say something. What does this command indicate? Second, what does saying something imply? I mean, forget about the command part of it, just to saying something, what would that imply? because at Drexel discussion, this is coming up quite frequently. There are people, sometimes they quote the verse, وَقَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ. So, and then they say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا, so we heard and we obeyed, and forgive us, غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ. So our return is to you. So, for example, when that is being quoted, generally the context is being that, well, they say, we heard and we obeyed. That's it, like a soldier. And this, literally this follows. Somebody says, do this, and I say, I heard and I obeyed. So this saying something as a response, for example, does this, what does this imply? So for you to say something, because there are different ways of saying things. You might be repeating a word simply. This is how it used to be in the Turkish movies back in the day. Somebody is about to die. Our good guy comes and says, repeat after me, Ashhadu an la ilaha, right? I mean, right before death, just to tie it to a good ending. So what does say in general mean? Second, this is a command. Who is the addressee of this command? And what does this connotate?
Who is the speaker? Who is the speaker?
Who is the speaker?
Yusuf, could you share your screen again? Because it's not moving for us.
Just a second. Your voice is not coming good. Probably it's because of this cable. Just a second. Yeah. Okay, let's see if this is going to make it any better. Okay, Dua, you made a comment, but we couldn't hear. Can you repeat it?
I was just asking you to share your screen again because we couldn't see it move, but now I see it changing, so maybe it was the cable.
Would you like to try once more? We couldn't understand. Hello, Dua?
Hello.
Oh, yes. Now can you speak again?
Yeah, I was just asking you to reshare your screen because we couldn't see what you were on, but I think it was the cable that was loose because now I'm seeing it.
Okay, now you're seeing the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So now it's working. So, okay. What do you think? I think I asked so many questions about say. Now you should say, قل.
I was planning to talk about the narrations you shared, but because it's too late now, I'm just waiting to. Once we stop discussing this good part, I can go back to discuss.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's continue it. There.
I was thinking that perhaps it's kind of like a response to something within me that is asking, well, what should I say in so and so like scenarios? So every time I see that kind of phrase in the Quran, I guess it's kind of leads me to think perhaps there's a situation where I need to be told this, and so where in my life do I encounter this, and how does this as a command apply to that situation, or as a general advice? Because I guess I was thinking about it as I might be thinking about, for example, oh, what should I write in this email, for example, to someone important? And then someone advises me, oh, you should say this in this, for this type of email. So kind of thinking about it as there's something perhaps that I need to pay attention to, that like a certain situation that I'm being like directed to, where I have to think in this certain way.
Okay, so the command aspect of it is I am in need of guidance and I need to take a stand, especially. So saying in the sense that, and I'm not sure how to respond in such a situation. And yeah, then I have a question, but that question needs an answer, but that answer is also going to put me in a situation where I need to take an action too. So in terms of a response. So that kul in this sense is saying that you are going to be, as in the would be the case here, about who I worship to, but I need to take a certain stand and be vocal about it, is how I hear what you're saying. Any other comments from there?
So we can speak.
I mean, I am going in that order. That will come to you.
I mean, I felt similar to what was just said by Zareen. And I guess like whenever somebody's like, say something, I find it interesting because it's a command as much as it is a help, right? Like it's a guidance and it's helpful because you must not know what to say if you're telling me to verbatim say something. So I think like I find that interesting because like there is a right say in this case. So, because it's like, say this thing is like, whatever you say prior might not be correct, because now you have to say this specific line verbatim, and I think, I find that interesting, or like the idea of.
That's good. I'll give you a few more minutes to catch up. So, yes, front row.
One thing comes to my mind is with the other ayahs starting with kul, like kul wallahu. It's almost like a kul there. It's like a see, like don't you see, or you know, this is the conclusion that we should be arriving and saying. Maybe a similar use is when we say, when we look at the trees, they say it's spring. Right? So the trees tells us that it is springtime, or we say, look at the trees, they will tell you about their creator. So the same way, when an ayah starts with as ul, it's like the giving us the conclusion that we should be arriving. So this is the case, and check yourself whether you say it or not. If not, like Sami'na and Wa'ata'na. So we heard and obeyed. You can of course repeat it with your tongue. But the question is really, do you say it or not? When you are left alone, is this what you say or not? Because we heard and obey means when if somebody look at your life, they will observe that you are obeying something.
So it's not only vocally saying, verbally saying, but also with your body language, with you as a being, do you say it?
Exactly, like it is, I would say even, they are not even equal. Like the vocalization in such an ayah, for instance, Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun. Like, should I go to the street and find some kafirun and say that, Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun. And it doesn't make sense, right? So it is more like, you know, whatever comes in some stages, whatever comes next should be your life.
Yeah, so that saying, actually, over the weekend, a friend was mentioning that current civilization invented a language in which they say, oh, I am sorry, but you know that they are not sorry. Like the word that comes out of mouth is I am sorry, or say, oh, I share your agony, but you know that he's super happy with your agony. So that's sort of a language. So say in this case does not only mean verbally say something, which also then takes us to do not say something that which you didn't digest, that which you do not truly accept and demonstrate in your life.
Another friend of us, he was saying that, when you take it as something vocal, what is vocalization? Like he was making a joke. Like when you vocalize something, it's like carbon dioxide coming out of your body to the outside. It's not even something, word of something.
It's not oxygen, it's carbon dioxide.
It's not oxygen, like it's something that you
Poisonous.
trying to exactly get out of your body. This is what vocalization is. So how your body speaks, how your action speaks. Like, because when it says kul, it means you are saying it, if you are the reader. And as an audience, when I look at you, I will hear that.
So then we can take this with the English, what did I say? Saying, not saying, but idiom, walking the talk, sort of a thing. So if you're not going to walk, then don't talk. So whatever you say should be what your action would be. This, I guess, also then applies back to وَقَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. So then this saying سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا involves some sort of a processing. You hear something. So it starts with سَمِعْنَا, but then between سَمِعْنَا and أَطَعْنَا, hearing and obeying, there is a processing in between. You hear something, you process it, you digest it, it becomes part of your life, your personality. You live by that and demonstrate that you're obeying. So I understood, I understand, now I am accepting it and living by it. So this is where the obey comes. So it should not simply be Volkswagen is the best car, say it.
Absolutely.
So like it shouldn't be something as this from outside, somebody comes and says, say it, and then he says it, but he's driving a super luxury Toyota. I mean, okay.
It was,
it was overpriced. So so this is that say should include in it this, in order to say something, you should really understand it, digest it, live by it, and then demonstrate it. So this is why something getting in and going out, there should be somewhat of a processing happening in there, not only intellectually, but also in my as a human, how do I live by it? How do I act by it? To internalize it,
externalize,
and then demonstrate it. So if we take the second aspect of it now, let's say you get it, you understood it, but also with the command aspect of it. Now let's take the command aspect of it. Now we are being commanded to say it. Like, do not keep it inside either. Let's say you heard the message, yet you're not going to keep it for yourself. So human is being asked to say it as well. The first addressee was the messenger, and he was vocal about that message. But also as a human needs to be that messenger overall. Distributing the message is like human is created for that, interestingly. Like human is made as a khalifa. This is one aspect of being a khalifa, to declare it to other people. Also, if we expand it one step further, saying such a thing before the whole existence, because that speech, when we say Qul huwallahu ahad, or in Fatiha, as again we are being vocal in the Fatiha, even when you recite in Shafi'i, for example, you need to recite it silently to hear yourself. Like even they say that the voice should be heard by me. So being vocal about that supplication. And that supplication is not to tell somebody some message only. In there, you are saying it, speaking to yourself, but on behalf of the whole existence. So this gul here is also indicating human's position as Khalifa, an indication of that. You are meant to do this. You're built to be vocal about this, what is to come next. So far, so good?
As Hanafis, we don't do taqleed on this is just for the imams to say it.
So Rasulullah did this, Rasulullah did that, so let's take it this way. So since both madhahib took it from Rasulullah, so in his life, that command is applied in that way too. So let's take it this way. Otherwise, it's going to get into different
And
territory.
vocalization was a metaphorical word, right there. So by standing, you sing. As a
Yes, go ahead.
like another approach could be who's the guy that they always mention his names when they talk about the religion? Pascal?
Andrew Tate? No. Okay.
Who's that?
This is the name I hear a lot. This is why I said I don't know the guy.
No, the Pascal. He says, you should keep doing it. And then after a certain period, you will, benefit from it. Even if you don't believe, keep saying it or keep doing it. And then it will become a custom for you, and you should start benefiting from it. So this is
This is Pascal's wager.
yes, I guess so.
Pascal's what?
Wager.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. And this is let's be honest, this is the most common way of taking such ayahs. Just say them, like Sami'na wa ata'na, you say, but like you heard what? You don't even ask that. Like we heard and then we obey, but heard what? Or here, say this, and I start calling people Ya Kafirun, Ya Kafirun. And it doesn't work that way, at least from a Quranic perspective.
As a human, you wouldn't accept that.
I mean, maybe some people would, I don't know. But as a, let's say, a student of Quran, yeah, definitely I wouldn't accept that. Because Quran is not there to trick us or teach us some tricks, shortcuts. Teach us guidance, give us guidance. That's what is the purpose. So just by repeating things with the hope that after I repeat it enough times, it will become beneficial. This is not a Quranic approach.
You were going to make some comment about the intro.
The narrations, yeah. So when you mentioned this Sabab Nuzul, I found it very funny, right? When you mentioned it, because what is the dialogue? Some people comes and say, how about you worship our gods for a while, we worship your God for a while, or at the same time, and whichever is right, we will benefit from this right one, right? Win-win. So when you narrate it, it sounds very funny, as if, come on, such thing never happened, you want to say. Or if, you say, these people were very, funny.
Stupid.
Stupid. But then, when you think about it, the way we, take the religion, especially these newer, let's say new, trends within Islam, combining different things, like taking the best part of the Islam, combining with other, the
Eastern,
the ideologies and so on, put some Mevlana into the mix, and then some sort of science stuff, and then you have
a little bit of yoga.
exactly a little bit of yoga, and you have the perfect mixture. Like this is what we do within Islam, and what happens outside Islam, it's yes, we don't believe that but every religion has some goodness in it. So we should, take them. If it helps you make your recitation, if it helps you pray, of course, in your, the private space. But then when you come to the class, you should follow a completely different ideology and start worshiping some other gods. When you go to work, you start worshiping your boss or wherever the money is coming from. When it comes to international space, you worship certain, the center of power and so on and so forth. This is what we do all the time. So it's not, it is funny, but it is ironically, tragically funny.
But you don't believe we could ever
Reconcile.
reconcile a true God solution?
We'll get to there. We'll get to there. Okay.
No, this is not controversial again. Like when
Yes.
put it that way, it sounds controversial. But we do it all the time.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll talk about that, inshallah. Two God solution about that. Okay. So this was about the say parts. Anything that you want to say about say or no? Good. Okay. قل يا أيها الكافرون. So kafir. We might have talked about this before, but let's remember again. Who is kafir?
Isn't that like a
Do we have one? So what is kafir? Who is kafir? First, what is it? And then who is it? And shall we talk to people like that? Like, is this verse saying that go and find those guys and just stand next to them and shout at their face, look, kafir, like those debaters, quote unquote, Muslim debaters on YouTube, like kafir, and oh, you unbelievers. What is it? First, let's start from who and what a kafir is. Yes.
Question
Okay.
is, when we talk about kafir, there's always this confusion, I guess, or disagreement amongst people. It's like there are people who ask like if the message never came to them,
Mhm.
and are they kafir?
Mhm.
Is this specifically talking about people to whom the message did come, and they were convinced, but they still rejected it?
Mhm. Yeah. Good. Then I'll give our standard example for that, but go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, the farmer, because he covers up the seeds.
Oh yeah, like the word itself is kafir, means covering up, and Quran uses kuffar for farmers. So in terms of farmers, the word kuffar in there literally means farmer, and farmer is called kuffar because of covering it, like putting the seed and covering it up. So rejecting faith or kafir is a person who denies the truth, covers up the truth. So to cover up something, you would need to know that it is there. Otherwise, it's called ignorance, like you don't know it. The example that generally we give for this one is, Atik comes and says, can you give me $5? And I say, sorry, I don't have $5. But then Atik shows me, like, look at your wallet. You have $5. I say, no, I don't have $5. Like, I know I have $5, but I don't have $5. You understand? So in this case, I know that I have $5, but I want to deny that I have it because I don't want to give it to him. In this case, I'm a denier. But if I was ignorant, and when Atik says, look, it's just hanging out of your pocket. Oh, I said, here's $5. I thought I left it in my other pants. Then I say, of course, take this $5, right? In this case, would I be held accountable in the second case? No, I didn't know that I had $5. Somebody showed me it is there. Then I said, okay, take the $5. So if somebody says, oh, he had the $5, but he didn't give, in the second case, I was not aware of it. I was not sent the message. I was not aware of the presence of this $5. But in the first case, I know $5 is there. but I don't want to accept it. It is there because it's going to work against me in this case. I'm going to lose that $5 if I say that it is there. Does it make sense? So denier in this case is someone who is aware of the message, and message makes sense, but for other reasons, I don't want to admit that it's true. I know that it's true, but I don't want to accept that it's true, right? I might know that killing children is bad, but I don't want to admit, I just give it another name. I just say that, well, it's collateral damage. So you know what's going on, but you're covering it up because it's against you to say that it is bad. So you don't want to mention it at all. So you're being a denier of the fact. You're just covering it up. Are you happy? Two-God solution. We are getting there. Okay. So kufr in this case is covering up the truth. So it's a deliberate choice by someone who is aware of the message, knows that the message makes sense, but it's against somewhat of a benefit of that person. This is why he doesn't want to admit that it's true. Yes.
I find this so interesting because when we talked about the first line, I don't know, but when I read this verse previously, I've always thought of like a reference to other monotheistic religion, and like you follow your religion, I'll follow mine, and it's okay. Like,
yeah.
And so that's how I thought of it. And now I'm like listening, and I'm like, wait, just like it could just be Muslims too, on paper at least. Like, so then anyone actually, because you don't know the extent to which somebody is.
Actually, this is exactly the point. You don't know who knows the truth and hiding it. Like Atik says, you have money in your pocket. From outside, would you know if I know it is there and saying that it's not there versus it's just hanging around there and I'm not aware of it? For an outsider, who would you know? How would you know? From outside, you can't, right? Then what does this verse say? Would become our question. Like, if I cannot distinguish it, then before whom will I go and shout becomes a question, right? Then maybe the point is not to go before any human being and shout, because you cannot distinguish if that person is or not. Yes.
I mean, you bring it back to, that the fool, right? If you're a believer, you should be saying something. If you're witnessing people saying or not saying, you might be able to, have some sort of assessment.
Yes, we will have a clue about that too. Yes.
It's a follow-up question. So if the disbelievers convince that this is the truth, but they have other motivations to speak against it, is that count as an ignorance of the reward or punishment in the afterlife?
Could be multiple things. Actually, like think about it. Let's say, what is it that this person thinks that, or I think that I am losing if I admit this message, right? So if I admit this message, I must be losing something that I don't want to lose. It might be that I'm going to lose, most of the time it is using my supposed power or agency. Let me use the word agency, because I think like, no, I do, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am smart, I am this, I am that. But then if I admit that, no, none of these belong to me, then I start feeling useless, valueless, because I define value, as we have been discussing on Friday. I have been considering myself valuable because of all these entities, right? Now somebody comes and says, no, everything belongs to him, it doesn't belong to you. What they say makes sense. Yes, everything belongs to him, it makes perfect sense, but then I become nothing. What am I going to do with that? You better be wrong. I don't want to accept what you're saying. Could become, generally, ego is a big motivation. But let's take a more cartoonish case. where, let's say, the elders of Mecca, as they say, Abu Jahl was saying that I know what he says is true, but why he? Why not me? Like, couldn't God find any more noble person within Quraysh and chose him? I'm a more noble person within Quraysh. I was supposed to be the messenger, not this Muhammad who doesn't have parents, who is not rich, who is nothing relative to him in his head. He says, I'm not going to accept the message because he is delivering the message. This caricature-like example tells a lot, actually, about how I am approaching a message. What might be the alter motives to reject message? This is just one example, but ego is most of the time at the center of it, if not always. So why would then the question be, what you said is another aspect of it. So maybe the person is accepting part of the message and denying the other part of it. But it's not, again, going to be, ignorance is not going to be kufr. But at least for someone, let's say with your example, who is aware of God, but not aware of afterlife. This is why he is denying even the existence of God.
They're aware that they refuse. Like, you know how people say because of your cultural background or the parents' upbringing, that's why they're not Muslim. Like, they might know of Islam, but because I'm kind of that concept and ignorance we know the message, but because we don't have conviction.
That is true, but for that person, especially in today's world, Islam is being heard, but Islam is being heard with the negative propaganda. So it's not really, the message is not there. It's the word Islam is there, but with a black flag with some white sword and something on it. So, yeah. So this sounds like, does this person, literally, there's no God, but God is heard by that person. But the way it's being spoken is that person didn't really hear the message of Quran. He just heard the maybe uttering of the Quran, you can say. So this could be taken as a not hearing the message. But again, the main point here is not to say that, oh, my neighbor, I'm trying to identify whether that person is really a kafir or not. This is not the point here. So the point is, to me, did I hear a message yet don't want to accept it because of some alter motives? Message makes sense. I am convinced that it's true, but I'm rejecting it just because something else. Yes.
If we go to this idea, then you can't not talk to people like that because you don't know which people fall into that category, right? Like, should we talk to people like that? If we go off of what we just said, well, do you know what they are, what they fall into? No. So then you just talk to people as we would talk.
That's an important point. And especially, Messenger is there to help people. And if you think about Messenger, many of the people, if not most of the people in the early Meccan days, 10 years later, they became Sahaba. And now after uttering their names, we say, radiyallahu anhu. So in the early days, those were the people who were rejecting. But they changed. So this is why this cannot be used as an excuse to say that, oh, that guy is denying, to chop off his head. That's not the attitude of a messenger. But then, why is it ayyuha al-kafirun? It's plural. Let's talk about that. And it's a noun, which means we are talking about a community. The second thing is this became, if you like, their job or lifestyle. It's not a verb. Multiple things are going on in here that we can pay attention to. First, like if I say, oh, Philadelphians, you're like this, what would you say? Well, not all Philadelphians are the same. Why are you painting everybody with the same brush, right? But now we are addressing Kafirun altogether, which is an interesting thing, as if it's saying that I mean, there's a saying, and I don't know where it originates from, but they say kufr is a single nation, single ummah. Like, it's no matter how different flavors of denial that is, denial is denial. It doesn't have multiple versions, is what it is saying. We'll talk about that, but go ahead.
I thought maybe there's like an aspect to it, right? Like even if you're not generalizable. Everything like cool. But even if the whole people are different, there is a single thing that they relate on. Therefore, they become a group. So like even if we're all different in this room, for example, we all follow the same religion. On that one point, we're the same. So maybe the believers are different in like whatever else they do, maybe not one thing in like how they disbelieve, they might be different ways, but they disbelieve nevertheless.
Yes. That's a good point. Disbelief, causes of their disbelief might be different, or motivation for their disbelief might be different, but they agree upon the fact that they both disbelieve. Yes.
When we look at how Sahaba would listen such ayahs, we see something very interesting. When, for instance, the Quran is talking about Kafirun, the Kafirun, Munafiqun, they would either start crying or scared, trembling, and we see that they take such ayahs for themselves. They would say, "Oh, it's talking about me." That's not it. We say, right? As you said, we say, they would hear a word like a munafiqun, and they would say, "Oh, it's talking about me. I have to correct myself." And another thing, they would, for instance, go to the Prophet and ask, I did this or that. Did I become a kafir? Or did I become a munafiq? So in every action, they would try to see an aspect which is like a kafir-like aspect, munafiq-like aspect. So it's like a label that a person carries. It's within every action, within every maybe idea that you have, there might be and there is an aspect which looks at being kafir. Another option looks at being munafiq. Another aspect looks for being, let's say, mushrik, or believer, or those who believe in the past tense. All these different aspects are within the same action. Different options, different, the views that you can choose and become one of them within this action. And then the next action, you will become a believer. Another action, you will become a mushrik. So it's not a static label that we can put on people's, the head. This is at least not what Sahaba did.
Yeah. So all those adjectives that Quran talks about can, like, if you would like to take it in a cartoonish way, talk about people out there. But if you take yourself as a city, meaning you have different feelings, imagine your different feelings and aspects or actions to be different peoples in you. You might have certain aspects of you that's not a believer yet, some aspects of you which are knowing the truth but doesn't want to admit it, some other aspect of you which is convinced and acting by it. This is why, as a human now, if you're like the mayor of that city, I need to put all these into proper guidance. This becomes my duty as a human. So this is, in general, how we can take munafiqun, kafirun. Yes.
So even with, let me say something, word controversial. When Quran talks about, let's say, Beni Israel, I think Quran is talking about this nation of Israel that we are facing now, this government, stay out there, or the Jewish people. I mean, to certain part of my life, I never ever, interacted with any Jewish people. So should I skip these ayahs then?
They never told you that.
Oh yeah, maybe. But even with Ben Israel, Quran's talking about you. It's that all these things are like archetypes. Like this is the type of behavior that you can fall into. The Ben Israel, represent a certain type of people in Quran,
certain type of behavior.
And then, the certain type of psychology, and it's explained and given to you because you follow such an archetype, follow such a type of behavior from time to time, and Quran guides you, telling you when you do this is the reason and this is the outcome.
Yes.
So then why say Yahweh friends instead of just saying people? Like you people, instead of specifying a specific group and kind of going through their journey and their mistakes at every single point. It's like well detailed. So you kind of assign it to this one group and move on in some ways. So you recognize the behavior and the pattern, it's clear. But because of that signage and that like entity that was given at the very beginning that it is talking about his people, I guess in my mind I never even thought about it. So I myself, I'm like, okay, read it, pass it. So I guess like why justification if we take it in the context of like.
Yeah. So when we are talking among people, sometimes we do that, right? So we say, Texans, like there's certain language, certain like behavior for Middle Americans, right? So in my conversation, if I say, you started acting like a Texan, I don't know if is Texan a proper way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay. So like people of Texas.
Oh.
Okay. No. Okay. Give me another.
Maybe like when I talk, let's say Kadir,
Mm.
and if I want to emphasize his masculine part, okay, I say you men, right? This is how I approach him, and then talk about I don't know, he's going to gym, playing with his muscles and whatever, right? All manly stuff. And then if I want to say something about his, intellectual life, I call him the same person
Einstein.
as, sorry?
Einstein.
No, the student. Maybe Einstein in the future, yeah. You student, I say. And then it's the same person, but different emphasis is there. Now I will talk about his education life. If I want to talk about, criticize the way he takes care of himself, I say, you handsome boy. So all these different ways to address the same person with different emphasis is what I would say a reasonable speaker would do. And who's speaking in Quran is the most reasonable.
And I guess using real people for that is, that's for aspects, that's true, but real examples are used in there. Not only the types that they mention, but they are exemplified with real humans. So it's more like, Einstein, welcome, sort of a thing, although I know that he's not Einstein. But I'm using this to indicate that, such a smart guy came, and it just became a title for being smart or hardworking or whatever. You know that I'm not talking about Einstein when I refer to him, but so that the message is not abstract, it's real message. Some real people came, demonstrated this behavior, but now you're doing it. So sort of a wake-up call.
It also like contextualizes the message that's being said, and it also like connects easily to when it's mentioned in other places, right? You can easily link it, these are the people that did this over there and that over there, instead of having to give like a generic statement, like, it kind of comes together.
Great point. Like imagine Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings without giving any names to any race. and then just calling them one race, and then another place, one race. You don't know which one is talking about.
That's right. And in creation, creator is creating apples, creator is creating oranges and plums, but all of them carry a certain meaning. Nations likewise, people likewise, they represent a certain meaning. If I read it as, what does my creator tell me with that? I guess the equivalent of this would be, what does Tolkien mean when he was carving out the nation of dwarfs? What motivated him to talk about dwarfs? What motivated him to talk about elves? In reality, what does he refer to becomes our question. Because at the end of the day, Tolkien is trying to convey a message through his text to me. So, this is my last question for today. Kul is a command to singular person. Say is being said to me, but the addressee is Kafirun, which is plural. Why? And this is going to continue throughout the text. One person is going to be debating with a community of deniers. And he would never say, we do this, you do that. He would say, I do this, you guys do that, sort of a thing. What does this signify? Would be my general question. Yes.
Say, I mean that you might always, as a believer, you might always find yourself outnumbered.
Being outnumbered, that's good. I mean, if it was little numbers, large numbers, that would still apply. I mean, this does not exactly answer one versus plural, but that's also valid. Like, thus having a super crowded people, but they're all deniers, does it make truth any weaker? Think about it this way. One person who says that there's a remote on here and proves that there's a remote on here. And there are 100 people around this building which says there is no remote in this room. Whose word is powerful? The 100 people who says there is no remote, is this more correct? Or one person who shows the remote? Yes.
But you didn't say who is correct, because the correct will become the majority, whether it's actually correct or not.
Yeah, proof. Like, this is why the idea is kafir is knowing the truth, but denying it. As Zaha was pointing to. As we were discussing what you said, kafir is denying every kafir denies it for a different reason. Because what is the idea with the kafir? Kafir is aware of the truth, but covering it up. Okay, and everybody has a different reason to cover it up. So the example Nursi gives for that one is seeing the moon. Like at the beginning of the month, somebody needs to see the moon and say that, oh, Ramadan started, I saw the moon, right? So traditionally, if two trustworthy people, I mean, a little bit, I'm going to expand it, but let me first talk about the general rule. If two trustworthy people sees the moon in the outside world, and one sees it and the other shows it to the other one also looks there and sees the same moon, okay? So now it's an outside reality, so seen by two people, and they prove to each other that we are seeing the same moon, and then this becomes a proof. And two such proving people's witness is enough in the eyes of the Sharia to say that tomorrow is Eid, right? Even if there are 1,000 people who says, I haven't seen the moon. Because it might be that, yeah, you haven't seen the moon because you tried to look at it from inside the house. Another person says, oh, my neck was hurting, so I couldn't raise my head, and within my eyesight, I couldn't see it. Like, the reasons for denial might be different, countless. But two people proving it supports each other. But claims of deniers do not support each other. This is the point. Kafirun is a plural, it's a community. One might be saying that, oh, there's no God because I think chances make it. Another one says, no, not chances. It's because of the nature makes it. Another one says, no, not nature. It happens by itself. One of them says, I'm a biologist and I say this. Another one says, I'm a chemist and I say this. All different sorts of denial. But all of them are denying the existence of a maker. Somebody comes and makes a proof that, look, I add this up, and this boils down to that there is a maker. It's a proof. That's why I gave the example of somebody comes and says, I say that there is a remote in this room, and here's the picture of it. Look, I proved it. But the other person says, no, I looked at that side of the room and I couldn't see it. Well, maybe you forgot your eyeglasses. There could be a billion reasons why the person didn't see it, or maybe saw it but didn't admit it. So deniers' claims do not support each other, even if it is in super large numbers. This is why even if the whole world denies the message of the messenger, he says, even if you give sun to my hand, one hand, moon to another hand, I am sure about my claim. I am sure about my message. Like they said that turn away from your message to the messenger, offering him a lot of incentives to turn away from his message, right? But he was so sure of his message. He says, I cannot turn away from that message. It's so clear, so true. Even if you were to bring a billion supporters of denial, it doesn't add up. Denial does not add up. So Kafirun, no matter how large that group is, or don't talk about the groups as human, but different types of ideologies which deny God, it does not add up. This is why in the face of, especially nowadays, Western civilization from various aspects, attacking the materialist perspective, attacking oneness of creator, does not add up. It should not shake anybody's faith at all because it's not adding up. This is the point. You are one, even if you are by one yourself, but you are finding the truth. You can confirm the truth in yourself. You are strong enough to say that, all the deniers, your claims do not add up. In my eye, every single one of them are equally invalid, and within a single poof, they can disappear. Let's go from here.
The parallels with, how there's one believer and many disbelievers, there's one God and many things to disbelieve. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Is it similar to the Surah Al Imran 173 that we're reading?
What does it say?
So those who were warned, your enemies have mobilized their forces against you, so fear them. The warning only made them grow stronger in faith, and they replied, Allah alone is sufficient as an aid for us, and He is the best protector.
That's good. So that is in reference to Friday discussions verse. So they say to them, enemies gathered against you, and this just increased their faith. So it's not shaking the faith, but rather saying that the enemy of Iman is not adding up. Their claims are not adding up. So it should not shake your faith. If somebody comes and says, I'm a professor of biology, there's no God. If just a random person who is, I don't know, illiterate or whatever, comes and says, oh, there's no God, the two words are equally invalid. Like one is not more valid than the other because it's covering up the truth. It's a denial. It's not proving any point. So, ayyuhal kafirun, or those who unbelieve. So it's more like a stance, taking a stance against denial, saying that no matter which flavor of denial comes, they're all the same in terms of their truth value, which is zero. Yes.
Taking it. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think like saying La ilaha illallah kind of reminds me of this, because at the end of the day, illallah is like the one conclusion that you come to, but then like going through the process of La ilaha that. But like, you have to go through like multiple, sort of like the example of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, how he had to go through creation and say that that ilaha like multiple times. And at the end of the day, it all pointed to like Illallah, like that was the conclusion to that. And it also kind of reminded me of how we say, or how it says that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was sufficient as a ummah, like on his own.
Yeah. Very good.
that-
Yes, and that's a beautiful point, right? Ibrahim alayhi salam was an ummah by himself because Iman, since it's proof, since it's based on the reality that I am experiencing, by yourself, you're as strong as a whole nation. Because the numbers do not matter there. But on the other side, to believer, though, strengthens your claim. I have seen it from that angle, and I know that there's a remote. Another person says that, oh, I have seen it from that angle. It really is a remote. That person's picture strengthens your idea about the remote existing there. This is why in prayer, when you're praying side by side with another believer, it's strengthening your conviction as well. And rightly so. The nature of unbelief or denial does not support each other, but the nature of belief, since it's based on reality and witnessing, this is how belief should be, right? It's since you bear witness, this is what belief is, bearing witness. It's not wishful thinking. If it was wishful thinking, I wish that there was a remote versus Atik is also wishing that there is a remote. Even a billion people wishing a remote to exist in this room would not make a remote here. So I'm not talking about that belief in English. So Iman, on the other hand, conviction based on your witnessing. If I witness it, Qadir also witnesses it, I can benefit from Qadir's witnessing as well. So Iman of another person can become a source of conviction for me too, but denial of a billion person should not, in its nature, if I know what denial is, should not shake me even a little. Yes.
On top of what Zarin already said, when we take it to ourselves, we can also understand that we have to face multiple different ways of the covering up in our lives. Just because we handled one the challenge to our belief, it doesn't mean that we are done there.
Yeah.
We have to face many of them.
And just to wrap it up, since this is then saying that take a stand, this is how I'm now taking it. Qul, the command is coming and saying that say to all those disbelievers. So it's not about one or two people out there, but me taking this stand against the whole world of unbelief in whichever shape or form it comes. I'm saying that, no, this is where I stand. Be clear about it. And be clear part will come in the next verses because we will be starting to make comparisons. But taking a definitive stand between where I stand and where they stand. And for the singular part, let me conclude with that. Why not us, but I? Iman is this personal conviction that this is where it starts. You first need to be convinced about it. And this is you're going to be building this on top of your own conviction, your own security. This is why saying that, oh, we think like this, you think like this sort of it's not that sort of a grouping, but it's more like this is where I stand and I'm sure about it individually. And this is where you guys as a whole is totally doing it wrong. Shall we conclude here? It's a little bit over time. And online people did not talk today. So inshallah, we'll hear them next week. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة